Have you ever noticed that the moment you get into a relationship, especially with someone new, people who never showed romantic interest in you suddenly become very interested, not necessarily in you, but in your partner? They start asking questions. Lots of questions. Sometimes subtle, sometimes direct, sometimes oddly intense. And it can feel confusing. If they didn't want you before, why do they suddenly care now? What's happening here isn't random. It's actually rooted in basic human psychology and social dynamics. One of the biggest factors is scarcity. When you're single, you're perceived as available, an option that exists in the background. But once you're in a relationship, that option disappears. Your availability drops to zero, and psychologically, unavailable things often feel more valuable. Not necessarily romantically, but socially. People may not want you, but they notice that you're no longer freely accessible. Another powerful factor is social proof. Humans are wired to look to others to determine what has value. When someone chooses you, it signals that you have qualities worth committing to. Even if someone never saw you that way before, your partner's interest acts like evidence. Suddenly people think, what did they see that I didn't? Your relationship reframes how others perceive you. Curiosity also plays a huge role. A new relationship is new information, and humans are naturally drawn to novelty. People want to know who this person is, how you met, what they're like, and whether the relationship seems serious. Sometimes it's harmless curiosity. Sometimes it's more like social investigation. There's also the element of comparison. Your partner can become a reference point for how your life is going. People may unconsciously evaluate things like attractiveness, status, personality, or success. In other words, they're not just assessing your partner, they're measuring where you stand in relation to them. Another common factor is fear of losing your attention. Even friends and acquaintances can feel a subtle shift when you enter a relationship. Your time, energy, and emotional availability are now shared with someone else. People who were used to having access to you may worry, consciously or not, that they'll be replaced or deprioritized. Questioning your partner can be a way of trying to understand the person who is now taking up space in your life. Sometimes there are hidden or unacknowledged feelings involved. A person might not have realized they cared about you, romantically or otherwise, until you were no longer available. The loss of possibility can trigger emotions that weren't obvious before. This doesn't necessarily mean they want a relationship with you. It may simply mean they're reacting to the closing of a door. In other cases, the questioning is genuinely protective. Close friends or family members often want to make sure you're safe and happy. They may be assessing your partner's character, intentions, or compatibility with you. Unfortunately, concern can sometimes come across as interrogation, especially if the questions feel critical or intrusive. There's also a less noble explanation. Relationships are interesting. They're emotionally engaging, a source of conversation, sometimes even entertainment. People are naturally drawn to stories about love, conflict, and change. Your relationship becomes social content. Jealousy can also play a role, and it doesn't have to be romantic jealousy. Someone might feel jealous of your happiness, your stability, the time you spend with someone else, or simply the sense that you're moving forward in life while they are not. Your partner becomes the visible symbol of that change. Finally, there can be a subtle power shift. If someone previously had influence in your life, your attention, admiration, or emotional reliance, a partner redistributes that power. They are no longer the primary person in your orbit. Questioning your partner can be an unconscious attempt to regain footing or maintain relevance. What's important to understand is that people aren't always evaluating your partner as an individual. Often, they're reacting to what your relationship represents. Change, loss of access, curiosity, comparison, or uncertainty about their place in your life. Healthy interest tends to feel warm and respectful. It sounds like genuine curiosity. How you met, whether you're happy, what your partner enjoys. Unhealthy interest, on the other hand, may feel probing, critical, or competitive, as if the goal is to find flaws rather than to understand. At the end of the day, your relationship reshapes the social landscape around you. It changes how people see you, how they relate to you, and how they see themselves in relation to you. So if people suddenly seem very interested in your partner despite never wanting you romantically, it doesn't necessarily mean they've changed their feelings about you. More often, it means they're responding to the shift in availability, status, attention, and social dynamics that a relationship creates. In short, they're not just asking about your partner. They're trying to make sense of what your new relationship means for them and for their place in your life.